I'm right here at the base of the Alpe du Zwift climb with a question I want to find the answer to. Just how close to reality is the virtual Alpe du Zwift? Now, these 21 hairpins stretching up right behind me make one of the most iconic climbs in cycling. And due to its legendary status, a whole load of different virtual cycling platforms have attempted to recreate this beast. So my goal today, to see just how close Zwift got when they brought the Alpe du Zwift climb into the virtual world. Right from the comfort, or maybe discomfort, of your very own turbo trainer. I'm going to ride up the real climb right here at a fixed power output of 3.2 watts per kilo, which is roughly at my current weight, 220 watts. Then when I get home, I'm going to redo the same climb at the same power output and compare just how long they take. And then I'm going to put the footage side to side so you can see just for yourself how close to the real climb these virtual platforms get. Now, why am I specifically targeting 3.2 watts per kilo? Well, it's because it's commonly accepted to be about the watts per kilo you need to do to climb Alpe du Zwift in under an hour, which is the real benchmark performance for a lot of riders, and a really good comparative point for this climb. Now, am I expecting the climbing times to be bang on? Well, absolutely not. The simulation on Zwift provides pretty much a perfect world scenario. Whereas out here in the real world, I've got traffic, wind, road surface, and even my questionable bike handling to contend with, along with the fact my position on the bike is going to change and it's not always going to be perfectly optimal. Whereas on Zwift, the simulation assumes all these things are perfect. So without further ado, I'm going to hop on my bike now and get going up the climbs. Let's see just how good of a recreation this virtual Alpe actually is. Let's see how much of a difference it makes. And off we go. And there we go. So obviously on Zwift, you can choose a lot of different bikes. I've kept things simple, gone for the stock Zwift carbon bike with the stock Zwift carbon wheels. So yeah, even things like the line choice on the road are going to make a bit of a difference IRL. And where you've got rough bits like this. Right, here we go, about to crack the first hairpin, bend 21. This one's always one of the hardest. It's really steep out the gate. And watching my watch, on Zwift, we're setting a split of around 4 minutes and 20 seconds. So you can see just how close that is to reality. Okay, bend 20. Let's see how we're stacking up. This is a nice bit of the climb where the bends hit really quick. You feel like you're flying, especially after them long two first bends. But there's some longer ones coming up soon, so don't get too cocky too soon. There we go, bend 17 now, almost at Lagarde. Definitely aren't this many buildings here in reality though. Just a little church and an apartment block. And we're starting the proper bit of the climb now. There's quite a long drag here before the hairpins leading up to huez. And as someone who's probably ridden this climb at least 20 times in reality, I have to say from all my experience, just not comparing the exact times, but the recreation, scenery aside, does feel really quite realistic. And actually, I get why they jazz it up, put castles in and all the rest. Keep it interesting. We're on for about an hour, which would be pretty consistent with the real world. And to be honest with you, I never expect the real world to be as fast as Zwift. You know, Zwift's going to assume you've got good form, you're not sat up like this on your bike, you know, your avatar's nicely on the hoods the whole time, fairly aero. Whereas, you know, when you're knackered going up a climb in reality, how many of you honestly are holding really good form on the bike? But I know for sure, if you've watched any of my Zwift races, the posture I have on the turbo when I'm tired, yeah, I'm a mess. As we crack bend 13 then, let's have a check in on time. And obviously outdoors in the real world, your power is going to fluctuate so much more. Plus, On Zwift, your avatar is taking a pretty efficient line around the roads, whereas in the real world, I mean, if you've seen my video about how much of a main road this climb is, you'll know you generally stick pretty well tucked into the edge, as there's loads of big wagons and trucks coming past all the time. Also, the other thing, there's no wind on Zwift, is there? Whereas in the real mountains, wind speeds can be pretty intense at times. So all these things accounted for, I would expect Zwift to be slightly faster, and I'll be really happy if I come within around 5 minutes of the real world time. And yes, you could say, well, Zwift should implement all these things like wind and all this other variability, or make your posture bad. But do you really want to be on a cycling game that's whinging about your posture being bad while you're in your garage on the turbo? That's not going to be happening anytime soon. I just love how I can ride up Alpe du Zwift in my garage in the winter. Like, this is a climb that means so much to me growing up. You know, watching the tour, riding it myself. I remember when I was 14 years old, going up it for the first time, and like, that's pretty much one of the big sort of catalysts to get me into cycling. Now then, I think it took me an hour and a half to get to the Tour de France finish, which, you know, was pretty much before I started using Strava. You know, back in 2012, I don't think I even had a phone with GPS. And when I got back from that trip, that's when I probably started getting involved with my cycling club back home. And the rest is history, really. 8 corners done now, and we're about to approach the infamous Dutch corner, where the church and the mental Dutch fans will stand on Tour de France Day, cheering on the riders in a sea of orange. I guess my orange club kit would be quite good camo to join in, to be fair. But fortunately for the riders in the virtual world, there's no flares to cough in all the smoke from. And yeah, 7 bends to go now. Fortunately, some of these latter ones, the gradient does ease off a little bit. And now if you are thinking, what a busy road this is, I'm going to link my video where I checked out an alternate route to ride up Alpe du Zwift in the description below. And I really recommend you give it a watch. There are some stunning views and quiet roads you can find if you know them nearby. The route in that video does pop out around here in Huez village, cutting up through the village before taking another detour off to the town itself. Still on 222 watts at 40 minutes and 30 seconds. That's almost precisely 2/3 of the time. Now in real life though, I've very rarely seen walls of snow this extreme next to the road. You do get it in places, but not really on the Alp. Maybe up towards a town after a massive snow dump. But yeah, this would be a great sight for a skier. You'll have to let me know in the comments, would you like Zwift to make any more of these IRL style climbs? I know they've gone down the route of all the climb portal stuff, but honestly, I'm not too into that. I'd much rather less climbs, but actually good recreations like this. Now, one climb they have remade in the real world is Mont Ventoux, and I actually climbed this about 7 or 8 years ago when I went touring for the first time on my cross bike with a baguette strapped to my panniers, and it was an epic climb, but I haven't done it since. So if you'd like to see a follow-up from this video, where maybe I go out to Ventoux and see, similar to this, how accurate it is to the real world, let me know in the comments below, and give this video a thumbs up so I know you've enjoyed it. Right, now it's time for the bend 3 time check. Here we go. In the real world, we'd be on the beautiful meadows with a town just up ahead, knowing you've almost got it, tasting the finish. Here we're in the deeps of the snow, and we even go through some tunnels. As I said, not the most faithful recreation when it comes to the scenery, but the actual profiling of the road, I think it's pretty spot on. here we go, approaching the finish line. Time to find out just how accurate then the total time really was. And we are done. Now, one big advantage of the real life climb is, at least when there's no market in town, as Andrew Feather found out trying to take the KOM, you actually can keep climbing up through the town and all the way to the top where the Tour de France finishes. It's about an extra 1.5 kilometers, I think, with maybe about 100 meters more climbing. But in reality, you have done the best part of the climb by now, and it is just very busy up through town, and definitely not the best when you're trying to go for a time. Hence why a lot of amateur open road races will finish at the bottom of the town, such as whenever they hold a hill climb up there. Okay, and there we have it. IRL, it's taken me 1 hour and 4 minutes at 3.2 watts per kilo. So I think that is actually pretty close to the virtual version. I've just thought of another discrepancy. In the real world, you know, I've got all this stuff like my camera mount, water bottles on my bike, and tools and a race cape in my back pocket. So in total system, I've probably got 1.5 kilos extra weight than I would normally have. And you know what? Got it really spot on. The simulation I ran on Best Bike Split before setting off, it was pretty much to the minute spot on with what it took in the real world. If you've made it this far into the video, you can probably see why I think the Alpe du Zwift is actually a really good recreation of the proper climb. Is it perfect? Well, no. Obviously, as we've discussed while I was riding up, there's a lot of drawbacks when it comes to recreating a real climb on a turbo training platform. But I think it really does strike that perfect balance between replicating reality, but not making it too complicated to work on a training platform. Trying to add in any more realism, I think, is going to create more problems than it solves. And actually, it's going to make it really not a fun experience to train on. Taking a more detailed look at the Strava results then. In the real world, I averaged 221 watts. I climbed the Alp in 1 hour, 4 minutes and 12 seconds. And now to contrast that, on Zwift, I averaged 219 watts, so 2 watts lower, and the climb was quite a bit faster at 1 hour and 26 seconds. Quite considerably down on my PB of 39 minutes and 46 seconds. If you want to see how I set that, watch the video link below. But all in, a difference of around 4 minutes is actually quite insignificant when you're talking a climb of this length. And you know, I'm sat on a turbo versus actually riding a real bike in the real world. You know, I think it's a really good, faithful recreation. Who knows, was my weight exactly the same? There's so many little variabilities that they can't perfectly account for. So yeah, I think Zwift does a perfect job of recreating it, really. And I'd love to see, rather than the climb portals, which are a nice feature, they make some more proper recreations of real world climbs. And actually, I think it's definitely close enough that it's a good sort of training benchmark for if you feel ready to climb something like the Alp in the real world. As long as your bike handling's not so shocking you fall off your bike. And the one thing that you do have to be mindful of, when you reach the top of the Alp, you're almost 2,000 meters, and that does have a significant impact on your ability to produce power. I think, as far as I'm aware, 2,000 meters might even be a 10% performance drop for most people. Some people, especially like Colombians and stuff, are more tolerant of this than others, and if you spend a lot of time at altitude, you can train your body to get better at it. But when you're out on one of these real alpine climbs, you go, oh well, my FTP is this, so I'm going to ride at this power for an hour. It might actually not be possible. It's really noticeable as well when you creep up towards that 3,000 meter mark. If any of you have ridden up the Burnett or the Iseran or the Galibier, you'll know what I'm talking about. So if you've enjoyed this video, let me know by giving it a thumbs up, getting active in the comments, and of course, if you're not already, getting yourself subscribed. And as you probably all can tell from how sweaty and out of breath I am, I'm on the turbo right now riding up the Alp and absolutely loving it. I find it's a great way to motivate me on boring Zone 2 rides. So I better shut up now, get my head down and get my training done, and I'll see you all in the next one.